Let's get started with our first news. Garry rips Colby Covington. He did another Q&A on his Instagram, naming one of his current favorite UFC fighters and also taking shots at Colby Covington. Fully believes that Colby is afraid to fight him. Who is my favorite athlete in the UFC? There's been someone lately who has been tickling my fancy. His style is phenomenal and I love to watch it. It kind of reminds me of an old school Conor McGregor. His name is Mauricio Hoof. He's from Sao Paulo. His style is beautiful. I think his movement is next level and I'm excited to see how his career unfolds, man. He's absolutely one of my favorite fighters in the UFC right now. Garry clearly has a deep appreciation for Mauricio Hoof's fighting style, and that says a lot coming from a fighter of his caliber. He sees something special in Hoof, something that reminds him of the early days of Conor McGregor when he was on the rise. The movement, the creativity, the precision, it's all there, and believes Hoof is destined for greatness. When asked about Oven Elliott, didn't hesitate to praise him, saying, "Is Oven Elliott the biggest gangster I've ever trained?" Well, let me tell you, brother, yes he is. He asked this question. He didn't he? 100% he did. It's clear that Garry has a ton of respect for Elliott, even calling him the biggest gangster he has ever trained. That's a huge statement considering the kind of fighters has trained with. And when it comes to Colby Covington, had some strong words. Have you found out where Colby Covington is hiding? I don't need to. It's blatantly obvious the man has no want to fight me. I've told you. You know when you're a kid and you watch a horror film and you never want to watch a horror film after that because you know what it does to you and you know it keeps you up at night? You start to fear and panic and you look down and then you see darkness? That's what happens in Colby's mind when he thinks about me. Is making it crystal clear. Colby wants nothing to do with him. He believes that just the thought of fighting him is enough to strike fear into Covington's heart. Mauricio Hoof responded to Garry, leaving a comment on the video saying, "It's funny to wake up and watch this video. A guy who I'm a big fan of, that I study and watch all your fights, to say that you admire my style. It makes me very happy. I hope to one day have the opportunity to train together. God bless." This is a moment of mutual respect between two fighters. Mauricio Hoof is honored by Ian's words and even hopes they can train together in the future. This is what makes the sport so great, fighters recognizing and uplifting each other while still maintaining that competitive edge. Moving on to the next news, Shara Bullet hopes Dricus du Plessis loses his belt. Right now, Dricus isn't scheduled for a fight, but the current narrative is that he will defend his belt against Khamzat Chimaev next. Shara Bullet did not hold back when speaking to Sport 24 about his thoughts on Dricus as the middleweight champion. He made it very clear that he is not impressed with how du Plessis got his hands on the belt and is hoping that his reign as champion ends soon. I will be very happy if du Plessis loses his belt. I don't understand how he managed to get this belt. Chimaev has the data to defeat Dricus. I hope that nothing will stop him from coming out in the best shape and demonstrating his level. Maybe it's stupid to say, but du Plessis seems to be lucky. Shara is essentially questioning Dricus du Plessis' legitimacy as champion. He doesn't see him as someone who truly earned the belt in a way that commands respect. Instead, he seems to think that Dricus somehow got lucky in his fights, and that luck won't save him when he steps inside the octagon with Khamzat Chimaev. The idea that du Plessis' championship reign is built on luck is a bold statement, but Shara believes that when it comes to raw skill and ability, Chimaev is on another level, and he isn't the only one who thinks this way. Many fans and analysts see Chimaev as a monster in the cage, a fighter who has smashed through his competition with sheer dominance. And let's be real, Chimaev has looked unstoppable since arriving in the UFC. His wrestling is next level, his pressure is relentless, and his finishing ability is scary. If he shows up in peak condition, like Shara hopes, then Dricus du Plessis could be in for a very rough night. But at the end of the day, MMA is a crazy sport where anything can happen. Maybe Dricus du Plessis proves all his doubters wrong and shows why he deserves to be the champion. Or maybe Chimaev walks in and destroys him, just like Shara predicts. One thing is for sure, if this fight happens, it will be massive. Du Plessis is known for his unbreakable will, and Chimaev is known for his brutal style. If Shara Bullet gets his wish and Chimaev wins the belt, it will send a shockwave through the division. But if Dricus somehow survives and defends his title, it will be the ultimate silencer for all his critics. This is one fight everyone will be watching. Next up, Michael Chandler fires back at PED accusations. Before Michael Chandler signed with the UFC, a small section of the MMA world questioned whether he stayed with Bellator for so long because he was avoiding the UFC's year-round testing under USADA. These accusations were nothing new, but once he finally made the move to the UFC, Chandler shut those critics down. As he told Brett Okamoto years ago after signing with the promotion, the critics did not have any more room to talk. He had arrived and he was ready to prove himself. Now, years later, despite never failing a test, Chandler still finds himself on the receiving end of PED accusations. And the reason? His insanely chiseled physique. Fans and fighters alike have speculated that his shredded build is too perfect to be natural. But Chandler has had enough of these claims. During an interview with Covers this week, Chandler was completely dismissive of the accusations, making it clear that he does not care about the haters. It's mainly water off a duck's back because, unfortunately, there's no way to ever prove it, right? I could get tested every single day for the rest of my career, and people will still claim that I've got Dana White privilege and that Dana is in charge of the testing, and they can just sweep them under the rug. Or they can dilute them. I've heard all of the different things. It is what it is. I know the truth, my family knows the truth, my God knows the truth, and that's really all that matters. Chandler is done trying to convince people. He knows that no matter what he does, some fans will never believe him. But at the end of the day, he says it doesn't matter because he knows the truth, and that's all that matters to him. Right now, Chandler is focused on one thing, his upcoming fight with Paddy Pimblett. But that's not the only fight on his mind. Chandler has bigger plans, and that includes the possibility of fighting Conor McGregor. He made it clear that he plans to call out the former champ on April 12th. I'm going to do my job on April 12th, and then I'll call out Conor again, and we'll see if he ever comes back. But what if McGregor doesn't return? Chandler is not putting all his eggs in one basket. If McGregor doesn't step back in the octagon, Chandler has other plans. With no clear-cut number one contender at 155, he isn't closing the door on a title fight with Islam Makhachev in June. I'm open to fighting Islam in June. The way this fight plays out, I think I'll have less than a 60-day suspension, maybe a 30-day suspension, and I could fight again in June. The fight would be on June 29th, I believe, so that's like 10 weeks later. I could jump right back into a training camp and fight for the world title. No matter what happens, Michael Chandler is making it clear he is ready for war. Whether it's against Paddy, Conor, or Islam, he is willing to fight anyone, anytime, anywhere. Next, Leon Edwards gets disrespected by a former UFC fighter. Not everyone is convinced that he has the heart of a true fighter. Despite his dominance in the division, there are still critics who question his mentality inside the octagon. One of those critics is former UFC fighter and current analyst Dean Thomas. On the heels of Edwards' recent performance against Sean Brady, a fight that many considered underwhelming, Dean Thomas shared his thoughts on the UFC champion during a conversation with Anthony Smith. While Thomas acknowledged Edwards' skills and accomplishments, he made it clear that he doesn't believe Leon has the same warrior mindset as some of his peers. I still believe that, skill for skill, his body type and all that, he was a great champion. He's a great fighter, he's still top 5 material, but I just don't think that Leon is in his heart a real true fighter. That's a bold statement to make about a man who has beaten some of the best in the world, including Kamaru Usman twice and Colby Covington. But according to Thomas, it's not just about winning fights, it's about the attitude and mindset of a true warrior. This kind of criticism is nothing new for Edwards. Throughout his career, people have questioned his fighting spirit, often pointing to his patient, technical style rather than a reckless, all-out brawl approach. But Edwards has always been someone who lets his performances do the talking. He's one of the most well-rounded fighters in the division, and despite what Thomas says, he has proven time and time again that he belongs at the top. But does Dean Thomas have a point? Edwards' fight against Sean Brady was certainly not his most dominant showing, and many fans expected a more aggressive performance from the champion. However, a win is a win, and Edwards still walked away with his belt intact. As of now, Leon Edwards has yet to respond to Thomas's comments, but knowing his personality, he is unlikely to engage in a war of words. Instead, he will look to prove his doubters wrong the way he always does, inside the octagon, with contenders like Belal Muhammad, Shavkat Rakhmonov, and even Khamzat Chimaev waiting in the wings. Edwards will have plenty of chances to show the world that he is a true fighter at heart. And now, the big question: is Conor McGregor done fighting in the UFC? After Michael Chandler called out Conor McGregor once again, fans were left wondering if the Irish superstar would finally make his long-awaited return to the octagon. However, based on McGregor's latest comments, it seems like he may have other plans. During a BKFC press conference, McGregor shocked fans by revealing that he's currently involved in politics and may be shifting his focus away from fighting. While he acknowledged that he still has fights left on his UFC contract, he hinted that his priorities might be changing. You know, like I said, I've got 2 fights on the contract. I'm in negotiations. Last week, something happened to me. I went to the White House, and my country is in my heart. My heart bleeds for my country right now. There's a lot of stuff going on back home. I'm happy with what I've done. You know, there's something else for me that's in my gut right now, and that's kind of where I'm going. So we'll see. Greatness don't rush. This statement raised a lot of questions. What exactly happened at the White House? How serious is Conor about getting involved in politics? And most importantly, does this mean he's officially done with fighting? While McGregor insists that you can't rush greatness, time is not on his side. The former UFC double champion is 35 years old and hasn't fought since 2021, when he suffered a brutal leg injury against Dustin Poirier. Every day that passes makes his comeback more difficult, and the longer he waits, the slimmer his chances become of competing at the highest level again. For years, fans have been anticipating McGregor's return. He's been linked to Michael Chandler, a trilogy fight with Nate Diaz, and even a potential title shot, but nothing has materialized. Now, with his focus seemingly shifting elsewhere, many are beginning to question if he'll ever fight again. So, is Conor McGregor truly done fighting? At this point, only he knows the answer. But one thing is clear: his legacy in the UFC is already cemented, and whether he fights again or not, he will always remain one of the biggest names in MMA history. Khamzat Chimaev vs Nickal. Could it be as big as Jones vs Aspinall? Right now, the biggest fight the UFC could book in the heavyweight division is Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. Fans are eagerly waiting to see if the UFC will finally make this super fight happen, considering Aspinall has been on an absolute tear and Jones remains the most dominant champion in MMA history. But what about the middleweight division? Rising star Nickal believes that if he keeps winning, a fight between him and Khamzat Chimaev could become just as massive as Jones versus Aspinall. During a recent interview, Nickal expressed his confidence in his future, saying, "I just got to keep winning fights and we'll make it happen." Bo is known for his elite wrestling and dominant performances, and many fans believe that a potential fight between him and Khamzat Chimaev could be a battle of 2 of the best grapplers in the sport. However, before this dream fight can become a reality, both fighters need to keep climbing the ranks. For now, Chimaev has his eyes set on the title. The UFC is expected to book him as the next contender for the middleweight championship, currently held by Dricus du Plessis. But will he win? According to Nickal, Chimaev's grappling ability gives him a massive edge over du Plessis. Khamzat has a massive advantage in grappling. You just don't get strong grapplers like that. Khamzat's undefeated record and his dominant performances in both welterweight and middleweight have made him one of the most feared fighters in the UFC. If he defeats du Plessis and captures the middleweight title, the division could see a new era of dominance under his reign. However, Nickal is on the rise and determined to prove that he can be the one to dethrone Chimaev in the future. With Dana White pushing for Chimaev's title fight to happen this summer, the middleweight division is about to heat up like never before.